Hello, and welcome to the Delusional Boyfriend Book Club. My name is Courtney.
I'm Phoebe.
And we'll be your hosts for today. We're talking about our March anime of the month, which is Mignon. It's a BL anime, and it is very hard to find, so I'm sorry for putting this on the calendar. I hope you guys all scoured the internet and found it one way or the other. This is the first anime that I'm doing with a co-host, and I'm so grateful that Phoebe agreed to watch this with me, even though it put her through a little discomfort, we'll say, sitting in my living room, watching this on the big screen, full blast volume. But it was really super fun, and I'm so excited to get into it. So if you guys are all ready to go, we're going to dive right into our tropes and spoiler free. If you haven't watched this yet, listen to this part, then decide for yourself if you're interested, and then go find it, come back, listen to the rest. So we have Mignon. Our tropes in this are going to be grumpy sunshine or golden retriever, black cat. We've also got an age gap. We've got a 21-year-old right around there, and an eternal immortal being. So love, we always love that.
Yeah.
Which leads us to the other trope, which is supernatural or vampire fic, which I'm like a big vampire girl. Are you a vampire girl? I am obsessed. My favorite vampire story of all time is Carmilla, which is like the OG vampire story before Dracula. Have you ever read Carmilla? Mm-mm. It's lesbian. It is about a girl who's like desperate for companionship and calls out in the night, and a girl vampire comes to her like in the next following days. Loved Nosferatu, loved Dracula. I was a big Twilight girl back in the day. Yeah. So I like basically all vampire fic. There's a manga. One of my favorite BL mangas is Fangs, which is a vampire story. So I will absolutely take any vampire I can get. One of my favorite tropes. It is a sports anime, sports BL, which surprisingly for me is one of my favorites.
Oh, it's one of my favorites.
Because
I read so much.
Oh my gosh, you love sports romance.
Mm-hmm.
And then sports anime, it's usually not an explicit romance, but there's implied romance between everybody because it's all men on the screen.
Yeah.
And if you're not going to have girl characters, I am going to go ahead and ship whoever's available to ship. So I love a sports. I specifically love boxing and MMA because my favorite, like kind of my introduction to BL was Jinx, the manhwa, the Korean manhwa, which is about an MMA fighter and his physical therapist. So I was really excited to see a boxer. Would you call this boxing? It's MMA, right? Because he uses his feet. He like kicks. It's like illegal street fighting.
It's street fighting because they wear boxing gloves, but they kick and stuff.
Yeah. So it's
boxing plus.
It's boxing plus. So we've got the sports meeting the vampire. Super fun and dynamic there. And then we've got our two characters. One is named Doc, and we don't get much more than that. He is very clearly this is a tiny spoiler, but I already told you it's vampire fic. He's vampire. He has black hair, red eyes, pale skin, slimmer build, very cute. We love him. And then we've got Mignon, who is the boxer, and he is got white hair and blue eyes. So if you're like a Gojo girl, you're definitely going to be into Mignon. And then he is really tall, really tan, really buff, and he's like so simpy. So if you love like a himbo or like a big teddy bear simp, you're gonna love Mignon. Yep. And then Doc is very much the black cat, grumpy kind of old man who is bitter and worn from too many days of lived life experience. So those are mobster. The other trope in this is that there's definitely like mob activity or gangster activity going on. So if you like the Yakuza or you like mob affiliated stories, then this is right up your alley. So if that all sounds good to you, you should definitely watch this if you can find it. But a little trigger warning, if you don't love blood, you might not love this. And also, if you don't like things with a lot of smut, this isn't for you.
But you can watch all of it except the last episode.
All of it except episode 12. Episode 12, just like heavy on the sound effects and heavy on the smut. So just be forewarned. Don't say that we didn't warn you. And with that, Princess, do you want to give us a walkthrough? First of all, can I ask you, after watching a BL anime, would you do it again?
Yeah.
You'll watch them with me?
Yeah.
Oh my God, yay. Do you feel like this was a good one as your first one?
Yes, because it was short episodes, so it was just the plot kept moving.
Each episode is like
4 minutes and 35 seconds or something. The last episode's 12.
No, I think it's 7 minutes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I don't think any of them are.
It's episode 12. There's only 12 episodes. It's super fast. I think it was 45 minutes total.
Yes.
No, it was good. And it was fun, and more happened than I was expecting when you told me it was only going to be 45 minutes.
And the art. How did you feel about the art style and the drawing and the animation?
The art was really interesting. I liked it. Their heads are so small.
Okay.
But
the yaoi proportions are something that's hard to get past sometimes. And I will say there were several scenes where she was like, damn, their heads are small. And I'm like, well, with yaoi, sometimes they'll draw their hands really big or their legs or the body really big. And I think it's always supposed to imply that they got a big dick because they're so big overall. But sometimes their heads get a little shrunken.
You get to like a full body shot and I'm like, he's so big, but his head is like normal.
But did you think overall that it was pretty? The animation was pretty. I really loved the soundtrack. How did you feel about the music? There was like that kind of like 80s transitional music when they're running or showing the like cityscape. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was fun.
I thought the music was good, and I thought the animation was great. Like in the fighting scenes, didn't feel slow or anything. It was good.
And this, I should have done more research on it, but I'm pretty sure that this is like a very small animation studio, like a couple people who got together to make this, because that's how it got on Vimeo. It was like more of an independent thing, and that's why you can't find it on any like official platforms now, is I think that there is an argument over rights to it. Mm-hmm. But with that being said, I'm surprised that the animation is as good as it is for it not being done by a big animation studio. Mm-hmm. So yeah, do you want to go take us through the plot as you remember those 12 very vivid episodes?
Yes. So when we jump in, we meet Mignon. He is this hot young boxer. He's tan, he's tall, he's big, he's blonde, he's got these blue eyes. I mean, blonde, but better because it's white.
It's so, like, so pretty.
It's so pretty.
And they keep calling him over the announcer. They're like, the big, beefy, white-haired champion, Mignon.
Mignon. It's great. So we meet him, and you immediately know he has a crush on the hot doc, mm-hmm. who is, smaller builds and kind of short with him.
Yeah.
Get out. Yeah. And so you meet him, you can tell Mignon's kind of in there with an excuse. I don't think he really needed to be in there before his fight.
He has a horrible, mean coach.
Yeah, his coach is super abusive towards him. Yeah. And he lives with his coach. He works outside of fighting with his coach at like a car shop. And his coach is the worst. But his coach is also like a short, fat little man. Yeah,
he's a very like fugly old man.
He's fucking gross.
Ugly old bastard is like a certain term in like manga where they'll be especially like smutty anime.
Yeah,
where there'll be somebody like that, and he definitely is an ugly old bastard. And so Mignon is fighting, and he ends up in the doctor's room. Is it because he got hurt or because he hurt somebody?
No, he ends up there almost immediately. It's like the opening scene. He's in there. I think he's getting stitches.
A little cut on his head. So he leaves the room.
And then he forgets his
boxing gloves.
So he gets down to the ring to fight. Doesn't have his gloves. And everyone the whole time is like, stupid young Mignon. He's this beautiful body, but he's so dumb.
He's so stupid.
So stupid. He's just a dumb young kid. So he's berating himself about how stupid he is. He goes up, he runs back up to the doctor's office to grab his boxing gloves, and he walks into the doctor with a full-on blood bag just in his mouth, like a Capri Sun.
And Mignon doesn't even, he's like not even phased.
He's just like, I just forgot my gloves.
He's like,
goodbye.
I won't. This doesn't bother me.
Everything's fine.
I still think you're really cute. I'll be back later.
So he just grabs his gloves, he dips, and once the doctor's like master finds out that Mignon knows he's a vampire, he says, we have to kill him, it's not safe, and the doctor doesn't want to do that. So he said, okay, well, then you owe me 100 bags of blood in order to not kill Mignon. And so he sacrifices all of this feeding, And he keeps getting all this blood and supplying it to the master to save Mignon. So he saves Mignon. Mignon doesn't even know it.
Yeah.
But Mignon is such a simp for this man. He's like clearly has a huge crush on him.
And he is assuming, he's like, I can assume that this guy needs blood to survive, so I will never lose another match so that I can
keep sending him patients.
I will send him all these patients. I'll beat the shit out of them in the ring. They'll get sent to the doctor. Then the doctor can eat. And he is very much like, please, I will do anything I can to keep sending you more people. Just don't be mad at me for finding out your secret. So the doc goes along with this, pays back all the blood.
Yep. And then Mignon becomes this undefeated fighter, but his coach sets up a rigged match and he has to lose. And if he doesn't lose, they're going to lose a bunch of money. And it's with the mob or whatever.
And so he explains it to this dumb ass fighter. He's like, listen, I know you've got 2 brain cells to rub together. Remember, you need to win the first round, lose the second round, get knocked out in the third round. It's that simple. Just don't fuck it up.
Yeah.
But he's been like bragging to the doc this whole time about how he's undefeated and how he's providing this food for him. So he's kind of got like an ego about his new record, and he definitely feels like he's impressing the doc with his fighting skills. So he doesn't really want to lose in front of him.
No. So he takes all that into consideration. He's in the ring and he just doesn't want to embarrass himself in front of Doc. So he beats the shit out of the guy.
Yep, he sees the doc come out to watch him for a second, and instead of throwing the match, he's like, "That's it. I'm gonna kick the shit out of this guy." So he beats him in that round, and we know that huge trouble is on the way because now all this money that was on the game has been lost for his coach, and his coach, we've already seen him when he fucks up, he'll like beat the crap out of Mignon.
So he beats the shit out of Mignon, and then the coach runs to try to get away and leaves Mignon to
deal with the fuck up.
But the mobsters catch the coach, and then they also go for Mignon, and then the coach, they kill him, right?
Yeah, so we just see that, like, Mignon opens the door to the coach's bedroom, and it's gone, and he's out of there, and then the front door opens, and these mobsters are coming in, and one of them throws a wrench at Mignon's head, and he, like, immediately starts bleeding so bad, but he books it, and he runs to the dock because he's, like, doesn't know where else to go.
Yeah.
So he's sprinting over there, and all of these guys are after him, but in the meantime, I think one of them yells out, "We got a meat hook for you," just like we had for the coach.
Yeah.
So we know that the coach is dead and these guys mean fucking business.
And so Mignon gets to there. He kind of gets away. There's a big enough distance, so there's some time. And he gets there and he goes to tell the doc, "I need help. My head's bleeding." And this poor man, he's like, freaking doctor is like, "I should have let you die. No one would miss you. You're so stupid."
He's like, "I should have just sold you for parts at this point. If you were going to lead trouble back to me, I should have just gotten rid of you when you first found out I was a vampire. I should have killed you and sucked you dry then. Nobody would have missed you. You have no family."
He was so sad.
Get the fuck out of here. Get out of my office. And he's very clearly like, I don't know if it's clear to Mignon. It's clear to the audience that he's trying to get Mignon to run away so that he doesn't get caught.
Yeah.
But so he's doing this like tough love, like, "Get out of here, lassie, go.
Yeah.
Go and get.
Yeah.
Go and get."
Yeah.
But it is heartbreaking because Mignon is just like crying and he's like, "Doc, I love you." And he's like, "I don't love you. You're literally just a meal to me. So get lost."
Yeah.
So Mignon goes and gets away, but then all of the mobsters show up at Doc's office.
And so Doc is trying to fight them off. And, he's holding his own, but he can only do so much until the master shows up.
And the master is like kind of like an accountant or bookkeeper or bookie for the boxing ring. So he's just been like sitting out doing the accounting and he sees this trouble happening. And he comes to the rescue and he gives some zip ties to Doc and he says, lock the door on your way out.
Yeah. So he's like zip ties him in. And then he goes to look for Mignon. And he finally finds him like under a staircase in a club where he's just decided he's gonna die.
Yeah, he's just like curled. He has his head injury. He is brokenhearted. And he's just curled up under a stairwell to die, to bleed to death. Yeah. And the doc finds him. And Doc is like so much smaller than him.
He picks him up. He's a big boy. And he carries him all the way back to his apartment. Oh. It's so cute. It's so funny.
And when he gets there, the whole time he's just like, hang on, Mignon, hang on.
Mignon. And then Mignon is really close to dying. And so he does the only thing he can think of. He turns Mignon into a vampire.
It's so good because he's like, gets Mignon in this bathtub and the vivid scene. So Mignon is basically dying and he sees the light and he's like going towards the light. It's an empty boxing ring. And then he hears Doc's voice like screaming out for him. And at that moment, Doc bites into him and turns him in this blood. It's a literal bloodbath. He's in a bath.
Yeah.
And blood is going everywhere. And Doc just starts licking it off of him. And Mignon's white hair turns black and his eyes turn red. And Princess, I was like doing a reaction video to this, and as soon as his eyes turned blue, he's like, oh, his eyes are red. Like, it's very visually pleasant. Like, the whole thing is really fun to watch. It's really exciting. And then now we've got our 2 black hair, red-eyed vampires because Mignon has been turned.
Yeah. And so after he turns Mignon and Mignon kind of recovers, he shows him to the second bedroom in his house, and he's like, this is where you'll stay. And Mignon is like, oh, hell no.
I forgot about this scene. He's so pissed. He's like,
so mad.
We are going to sleep together.
He's like, no, we go together. And the Doc is like, no, I can't. And he's like, oh, yes, you can.
He's like, I'm going to sleep in your bed. And so Doc goes, well, you can sleep in my bed, then I'll sleep in the guest room. And Mignon throws a huge hissy fit, and he's just like, he's so upset, and Doc is like, okay, fine. Come with me. You can come sleep in my bed. So fucking cute.
Yeah,
they're precious. Like, I really do love a like baby girl top who is like physically so big, but is just crying and in love and throwing a fit. Like, I'm all here for it.
So after they're like in the bed, and then things get steamy fast and aggressively steamy.
Because Doc is like, it's been a really long time since I've let anyone close to me. And he's like, Doc, let me in. Like, are you going to let me in? And you're just like, is he asking what I think he's asking?
Yes. Yes, he is.
And so they start going at it. There's like another scene earlier in the story where Mignon purposely cuts his own lips so that the Doc will kiss him. And the kissing is like very graphic. I loved it. There's like a lot of voice acting going into it. So there's a lot of sound effects, which I think it will either work for you or it will not work for you. But at this point, they start going at it, making out. And Mignon is like, are you ready to like let me in all the way? And he's like, I guess. And so Doc, like, they strip down. Mignon starts going to town on him.
Oh, man.
This is
very graphic.
The most intense fingering you will ever watch on screen.
Yeah. In the sound effects, it was the most intense squelching noises I've ever heard in my life, especially for someone when there's no lube. I mean,
there's no lube in this, but I would say that if you read enough BL, you're familiar with like slick squirters, which in a fantasy or like sci-fi or whatever you call it, he's a vampire. So much like in the Omegaverse, like if you're not a human, maybe you have other bodily anatomy. And he does mention how they won't have to use the bathroom anymore because they're not eating any solid food. So maybe their anatomy does change. Maybe. And they just get a self-lubricating hole, which would be really convenient because in this scenario, there's a lot of wetness.
It is wet back there.
It is wet.
It is wet.
It is so graphic. You like literally see it go from like 1 finger to 2 fingers. You can like see his like belly moving with the like
and it's so
force.
It's so funny because I felt as unready for it as I think the Doc was unready for it because the look on his face and he goes like, Mignon! It's so funny.
And I have been like spoiled on the story. I have not watched the full story, but I've definitely watched scenes of it and I had like an idea of how this was going to be, but I was not ready for how much, like I was sitting there with my best friend just like, oh, that's a lot. That is like a lot of fingering. Which sometimes I think it's easier to watch sex scene than something like that, which is almost like more intimate.
Yeah, in a weird way. For sure.
Definitely is. So then we were talking about this before we started the podcast because I'm like, I just love that Mignon was a virgin and he's so skillful. And Princess is like, is he a virgin? And I had to rewind it before we recorded this to go back to the lines where he's like, Doc, have you ever done this with anybody before? And the doc is like not even responding. And Mignon is just like, this is my first time. I love it. I love you. And so he like puts it in him and they're going at it. He bends him totally in half.
Lawn chair.
Full on lawn chair. And I thought the whole animation was really spicy, but the voice acting, like kudos to those guys. Oscar winning performance. If they weren't making out with each other and fucking each other, they sounded like they were.
Yeah.
They definitely sound like they were. And whatever they were using to make that squelching sound, like
top notch. I mean, it was squelching.
I would like to know,
squelching.
were they like fucking with a grapefruit or what is that sound effect coming from? Because they're not, I would assume they're not making the real sound
just
effects.
Like really aggressively stirring a pot of like
mac and
wet
cheese.
ass mac and cheese. Yeah.
We were talking to some of our friends about this after watching it together, and Princess was like, I just I wasn't ready for the squelching. And we're actually talking to two of our gay friends, and they're like, what do you mean squelching? And we're like, like a...
They're like, no.
We literally don't know. But we'd also gotten into a conversation with them about the impossibility of these activities without lube. So I'm either assuming that lube was used or Vampire's Anatomy allows for easy
I'm going to assume they use lube and it just isn't necessary for the storyline.
I'm telling you, they always show it. Like in the last BL anime that I did, Yes, No, or Maybe, they literally use hand cream. And they it took me so far out of the story. I was like, that would burn
that's worse than just not showing them using anything.
I like just show them using lube. But I
don't like that.
Either way, the squelching was it was there. It was very present. So they get it on. They both clearly finish, and then
freaking Doc has literally a toe curling orgasm. His ankle is up on Mignon's shoulder, and his toes are like, and then Mignon takes his new vampire teeth and bites into his ankle.
That was hot as fuck.
It was hot.
That was hot as fuck. I love that moment. And then after they finish, Mignon immediately pulls him up onto his lap and keeps going. And this part is a little bit hard for me because he grabs him by his...
He's still wearing these little underwear.
Doc is wearing little underwear and Mignon grabs him to get leverage and is wedging this man up and down on him by his underwear. And I'm
and you know what this man has to say? Mignon!
Shocked.
It's the shock. He's not mad. He's just... he's in shock.
He tells Mignon several times slowly. And Mignon's not going slow. No.
I don't think so.
There's some great shots of Mignon from the back, and he's got such a nice round booty. And they're really showing him kind of throwing it in a circle. And I'm like, boy, if this is your first time, you're really doing the job right. So very impressed with his natural instinct. Maybe it's the fighting. Maybe he's just good at physical things because he's so stupid.
He's just an athlete.
So they continue fucking, and that is the scene we leave off on, is him yanking him up by wedgie, which I would hit a man. I would literally throw fists. If a man took me, and my husband does love me in a good thong, but if he ever ratcheted that up, if I ever got a wedgie in sex, I would. Can you
imagine somebody even being able to pick you up with one hand by your underwear?
The physics of it, the underwear not ripping.
It's crazy.
It's crazy town. But I always do love a jockstrap in a story because a jockstrap does give you a little handle, a little something to hold on to. But this is full on whitey tighties, up the crack. Either way, still worked for me. I will admit I did like it.
Yeah.
And that's where the story ended. And Princess, your reaction quite immediately was that was a little, am I uncomfortable? Was that uncomfortable? And I'm like, bitch, you make me talk about reverse harems where a girl's getting triple dick down by 3 guys.
I didn't say, was that uncomfortable? I said, wow, that was more explicit than I was expecting while I was laying on the couch at my best friend's house.
It did feel like watching a full-on adult film.
Porn. It was so... aggressive, and it wasn't even like the aggressiveness of it. It just also was like 6 minutes of it. It was long.
Oh, that whole last episode, it is fully just them going at it. So it was really, I would say it's like one of the longest smut scenes I've seen on television.
That's what I'm saying. So I was just in shock of like, I can't believe I'm like, it wasn't that it wasn't good. It's that I'm watching it at your house on your couch.
We could have watched it separately, but it's more fun this way.
It was fun.
And I got her like whole reaction on videotape, and that's going to be a treasure I show her children one day. In the background, it's just our faces, and in the background, just like squelching and squelching.
The sounds are outrageous.
Mignon!
Mignon! It's been living rent free in my head all week. Mignon!
This is like definitely made its way up my favorites list, because most BL animes you're lucky if you get a handhold, you're really lucky if you get a kiss, and if it's like a perfect story, they'll exchange rings at the end. Like Yuri on Ice, they do exchange rings and you get one kiss. That's it. So like to have something.
Yeah, well, that's not enough. So.
It's not enough. So to have something really explicit, like you're not gonna be able to find it as easily. It's not gonna be on like Crunchyroll, but
it was good. I just wasn't expecting it.
Yeah.
Because I knew I thought it was gonna be like
that.
They're gonna kiss and then they're gonna imply that they're doing it, but we're not gonna see it. No, you see it.
In the next animes we watch together, you're gonna be disappointed, because you're gonna be like, my standard is up here. If we don't get a full episode of just smut, then what was I here for?
What was the point?
But
all that work, and what did it get me?
And what did it get me? So this is like definitely one of my new favorites. I always knew it was gonna be. I just had a really hard time finding it. And then when we started doing the BL book club, I was like, this would be perfect for book club, because there's a huge fan base. And I love talking to like big fandoms about their favorite stories. It's really easy to make content for, because people are immediately talking back to you and you get this like conversation going. So I was like, okay, I'll just hold off until the month. But it's been so hard for me to like wait on watching this. Wolf and I started watching it on Valentine's Day, and I was like, okay, turn it off, because I need to like wait for the book club to do this. So I'm really happy we got through it. My favorite part of this whole series is asking who your delusional boyfriend is. If you had to choose between Mignon or Doc or the master, because he is cute and he does come in handy and he's kind of his addy.
He's too old for me. Mignon.
It's Mignon.
He's such a big old himbo. I love it.
I love it.
And then he is like softy until he's in the bedroom, and that is a dream man.
It literally is a dream man. Somebody who has like your best interests at heart, and until you're asking them to slow down, and then they're like, honey, you're buckled in.
That's not what you really want.
And he is like, he intuitively knows what he wants. He is obsessed. I love any man who's like obsessed with me. And I do love a golden retriever. I really do think Doc is adorable though. His like,
he's cute.
Grumpiness, his loneliness, how he like tries to push Mignon away. He's like sassy little guy.
Well, and it's so funny because in real life, if I see a man fight another man, I am going to roll my eyes and walk away and never speak to either of those men ever again. I think it's so gross and horrible. But when it's like this and it's in fiction, I'm like, oh, that's hot. Oh, did you see the way you just kicked that guy in the face?
Oh my gosh.
That was hot.
The kick in the face was really hot.
It was
I know the exact thing you're talking about, because
yes.
he just like almost kicks a man's head off. And also he's not fighting for the sake of fighting. He's fighting to provide for his man.
And he's fighting to provide
him.
For himself and not die, because his coach is gonna beat him up if he doesn't perform.
His personality, he would never like be in a bar fight just for the sake of being like a manly, toxic, aggressive person. He's just fighting as a means to an end. So I also in real life, like if I see men getting in a bar fight, I'm just like, oh, both of you have tiny wieners. Yeah. Like what's so boring about your life that you have to come here and get in a physical altercation with another man? What do you have to admit to yourself? But in a story like this, he's doing this for his man. And Doc keeps asking him to get out of it. He's just like, this is no life for a young man. And then in the end, he turns him into a vampire. And
he's like, this is your life now.
Well, this is definitely.
This is your life, young man. You can just ass squelch finger me for the rest of eternity.
We'll forever just be working this underground boxing ring as two doctors with no education and being doctors who are just stealing the blood from our patients.
Correct.
And I'm like, that's a really happy ending. And I'm always here for a happily ever after.
Of course. That's why anybody likes romance.
Exactly. And sometimes these doomed yaois, like a lot of these yaois in the end, tragic shit happens.
Yeah.
So I'm like very happy to see a short, perfect story where we have a cute little plot, some action, some conflict, but then at the end they just get to be soulmates forever.
Yeah, it's cute.
Super cute. How would you date, the other question is, would you date Mignon IRL? Or is he just a fictional boyfriend?
I think he's a fictional boyfriend because he's so young and so baby.
I don't think I could date him IRL.
Yeah, I
just
don't think
because
so.
like he would just get a traumatic brain injury and like leave me a widow.
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
I couldn't do it. I could date Doc in real life. I definitely could date Doc in real life. He's just like grumpy and sassy and old and like I like him. And like he works, like he could provide for me. It'd be fine.
You can't go on a date in the sunlight though.
Yeah, I was gonna say he would have to turn me, which is a big plus. I would love to be a vampire. So I could date Doc in real life. All right, I think that's everything. This is a short one because it's a short anime.
Yeah.
Leave that in. Okay, thank you guys so much for joining us for this month, March's Anime of the Month. I hope you enjoyed Mignon. And if you're just joining us for our BL Animes on the book club, next month for April, we're watching My New Boss's Goofy. And I hope Princess will come back for that one. I think it's a rather short one. I don't think it has like multiple seasons, but either way, we'll find out. So please join us for that. If you want to see all of the titles we're doing for the month of March and April and so forth, go to delusionalboyfriendbookclub.com and there's a tab that says DBBC calendar. And that has everything laid out for you for the anime of the month, the manga of the month, the manhwa of the month, and the reverse harem romance novel, which Princess is always a guest host on. So if you want more of us, definitely follow along on this journey and also go to our socials. Delusional Boyfriend Book Club is our name on Instagram and TikTok. We're really active on those. And then if you're listening to this on a podcast, make sure you go look at our YouTube. You can watch this in a full video format on there. If you do, please rate, review, and subscribe. And if you're listening to this on a podcast, make sure you hit subscribe. That way, all of the episodes immediately download. And we're thinking about doing some fun bonus episodes. And we have some people who are wanting to also come on and guest. So if you're interested in those and making sure that you hear them right away, make sure that you subscribe. That way you never miss an episode. Go to our socials, make sure you hear all of the up and coming news for book club. And if you go to the website, there's also a discussion forum where you can tell us how much you also love Mignon. And there's a blog there as well. If you want to read my thoughts on all the squelching, I'll have it written out. So by the time you watch this. So thank you guys so much for being here. Until next time, remember, sometimes the delusion
is the solution.
Bye.